Welcome to GDs, and this is Snowfall, Season 2. Season starts 4 months later, with everyone's business running smoothly. Teddy is getting his products dropped from airplanes, which Lucia collects, and she has now taken over the entire business of his uncle. Teddy collects the products from her and gives it to Avi. Franklin is buying from Avi, converting them into rocks, and selling them via the ice cream trucks. Franklin also moved out of his mom's home, and has been living with Jerome and Louie, as Sissy was against his ways of earning. With their business growing, they now also have security at the house. Things start to change when one of the shipments is not dropped. Teddy learns that the pilot ran away with the supplies. In addition, Teddy also gets to know that the Congress is against funding the war in Nicaragua. Thus, they had to cut off all official support. James lets Teddy know that now, his operation is the only way left for them to aid in the war. He also lets him know that moving forward, there can be no links between him and the government, and all his activities will be off the books. James assures him that in order to keep him covered, he will be keeping a file on him in his safe, if anything happens to him. Teddy now knows how important it is for him to succeed. Thus, he gets a new plane, and convinces his brother Matt, a Vietnam War veteran, as well as a pilot, to fly for him. It is when we learn that Teddy and his father don't get along. Teddy assures Matt that he will only need him for a few months. On the other hand, Lucia is worried, as Pedro vanished after they murdered his father. Though Lucia has been looking for him, she has not been able to find him. In addition, Lucia wants to expand the business. Thus, she contacts another Mexican gang, and lets them know that she can get them the rock, which is the new trending drug. Gabriella, their leader, getting to know this, meets Lucia, and they make an agreement. But Lucia, not knowing who is making the rock, buys it from the streets, and asks to be connected with their supplier. The corner boys relay back the information, but Jerome is not happy, learning that they are selling at Pico Union, as it's Mexican territory. He warns them, and tells them to stay away from that corner. Pedro returns and catches up with Lucia. He lets her know that after the shootout, he was afraid, and that's why he ran. Later he found a girl who helped him sober up, and showed him that he is his own man. Thus he has returned back, only to take his inheritance, as he is planning to marry this woman. He later gets Lorena to meet with Lucia. He then tells her that he doesn't want to move away. Instead, he wants to work with her, as they started this together. Lucia, after getting their stories checked, allows them to work for her. Franklin also tries to talk with Claudia in order to get her nightclub, but she is not interested in selling. In addition, Louie and Claudia started spending a lot more time together, and they have come a lot closer. As Franklin goes to Avi to buy the products, Avi is raided by the police. Franklin is able to get away, but Leon got caught in the process. They get Leon out on bail by hiring a good attorney. But as they had to front $5,000 to get the bail, one of the attorneys decided to rob them. But Peaches, their security, takes them out. Peaches and Jerome take care of the bodies, while Louie and Franklin clean the house. Franklin, now having no suppliers and running out of product, is looking for a new supplier. And he is kidnapped by Teddy. As he wakes up, he finds that Leon is also there with him. Teddy, being short a buyer, interrogates them in order to learn if he can trust them and work with them. Franklin is able to figure out who he is, and lets him know that they can work together. Teddy, needing a buyer, is satisfied with Franklin, and decides to work with him. He also lets him know that he was aware of Rob watching Avi. Franklin, before agreeing to the terms of the deal, wants to know how he is getting the products. Teddy shows him the plane which they used to bring in the product. Matt, finding out that he has never flown before, takes him for a ride. Franklin, being in the air, loves the feeling of flying. As they return, Franklin agrees to buy from Teddy. Going through the experience of being kidnapped, he goes to visit his mom, but she doesn't want him back home. Franklin goes to meet Melody, and he ends up spending the night with her. Meanwhile, his men, selling on the Mexican corner, despite being warned by Jerome, are killed by them. Getting to know this, Leon, Kevin, and Jerome go to the corner to seek revenge. Franklin reaches in time and asks them to return back. He later explains to them that without knowing who attacked their men, It's pointless going after anyone. Franklin, getting to know that a Mexican lady approached his men before they were killed, sets up a meeting with her. As he reaches the meeting, he is surprised to see that the ones meeting him are Lucia and Gustavo. Franklin wants to know from Lucia on who is responsible for the death of his men. Lucia lets him know that the men who came after them is an OG of the Mexicans, and he is protected by everyone, and if he goes after him, an army of vatos will not only come for him, but for their entire family. Lucia also lets him know that she wants to be his business partner, and can help him sell a lot more. Franklin hears her out, but makes no promises. Kevin, getting to know that Franklin won't be responding as of now, is quite angry, as the men who were killed were his cousins. Franklin, in order to keep Kevin calm, lets him know that Lucia will find out for them the man who is responsible, and then they can go after him. Kevin and Franklin get into a heated argument, which results in Franklin slapping Kevin, while Kevin pulls a gun on him. Leon is able to defuse the situation, and all of them walk away. Later, Melody comes to see Franklin, and as they kiss, Andre knocks on his door. And he asks him what the vehicle of a missing attorney is doing on his street. Franklin is able to send him away, but a spooked Melody decides to leave. Peaches tells him that he need not worry about the car, as moving it would have caused more problems. On the other hand, Matt goes with Teddy on their first supply run. But on landing, they are stopped and forced to stay back at gunpoint. Diego and Danilo, their Colombian suppliers, are not happy with Teddy, as he missed a few shipments. Teddy assures them that now things will be in order, as they have a new pilot. But Diego and Danilo had more demands from him. Matt agrees to them, so that they could move along and be safe. Being back, they supply to Lucia, as well as Franklin. Teddy, seeing small bills from Franklin, lets him know that he can help him get a bank account. Franklin finds the prospect lucrative, but he first wants to do few deals. Franklin, now being forced to buy more products, knows that they will have to cook more. He asks everyone to help out in order to cook, as for now, he wants the recipe to be in the family. Rob asks him to front him some products, as after Avi left the valley, there is demand, which he thinks he can fulfill, and Franklin decides to front him the product. With regular supply of the product, they have to cook a lot more. Louis, feeling unappreciated by Jerome, and being pampered by Claudia, decided to leave Jerome. Franklin wants her to come back, but she lets him know that he will have to manage without her. Franklin, being short on a cook, agrees to bring Leon's girlfriend Wanda in the circle, and they teach her how to cook. Franklin also tries to smooth things with Kevin by letting him know that they can go after the Mexicans who killed their men, but only after he can find him. Franklin is also helped by Teddy, who gets him fake credentials and helps him in setting up an offshore bank account. While Lorena is slowly getting close to Lucia, and an immigration raid on her business brings them even closer. We later learn that Lorena is an undercover DEA agent, and her handler is Tony. And it was Pedro who approached them after the death of his father, as he wants to take down Lucia. Lucia, trusting Lorena, brings her into the inner circle, and she introduces her to Matt. Meanwhile, we get to see Alton being forced off the street by the police. Sissy, still being his emergency contact, gets a call from the hospital. They let her know that he has detox now, but needs a safe place to recover. And if he goes back on the street, he might not survive. Sissy, knowing this, agrees to take him in. As Alton recovers, he learns that Sissy is late in her mortgage payment, and might lose her house. He lets Franklin know the same. Franklin gets quite annoyed by it, as he was never there for them before. He later goes to his mother, and reminds her how she used to cry because of Alton. Sissy tells him that it was the past, but now, Alton is the reason she is not crying every day. Later, Alton apologizes to Sissy for going to Franklin. Though Sissy is upset with him, but she asks him to stay. Franklin also gets a visit from Avi, as he managed to get out of prison. He lets Franklin know that now he is out, he hopes that they can go back to business as usual. Franklin, afraid of Avi, goes to Teddy, letting him know that if he cannot get Avi to back off, he will have to buy from him. Teddy goes to meet Avi, along with Franklin. Teddy offers to buy guns from Avi, provided they are not US made, and can be delivered outside the country. Avi agrees to the deal, thereby Franklin gets off the hook. Franklin knowing that Teddy was able to get Avi to back down, knows that he is connected. While Teddy, reading about the development of a project, gets quite scared, as he had buried Victoria and Alejandro on that ground. He goes with Matt and removes the bodies before they are discovered. In addition, he now wants Matt to fly weapons also. Matt agrees to do so, provided Teddy pays him, as he has plans to start his own skydiving school. Teddy agrees, and they fly out to Panama to finalize a deal. Teddy gets Panama set up as a waypoint for the delivery of weapons. He also meets with Alejandro's wife and assures her that they will continue to get the support they need. Back in the US, Lorena and Pedro were able to make Lucia trust them enough that they were with them when the Mexicans came to pick the product. But things flared up during the exchange. As a result, all 3 Mexicans were killed. Though in the process, Lucia got injured. Lucia, seeing how Lorena handled herself during the exchange, knows that she is from law enforcement. Knowing this, Gustavo wants her to run, but Lucia was not willing to look over her shoulder forever. Tony, getting to know what went down, wants her to wrap up the investigation and arrest everyone, as they have enough to take Lucia down. But Lorena also wants to go after their suppliers, and is able to convince Tony to give her 48 more hours. Lucia also gets a visit from Gabriela, as her men went missing. Gabriela was able to figure out that Lucia is responsible for her missing men. Lucia, in exchange for her life, offers her the recipe for the rock. Gabriela agrees to it, but lets her know that she has limited time. Lucia and Gustavo approach Franklin, and they offer to pay him in exchange for the recipe. Franklin lets them know that he can cook for them, but he won't be giving them the recipe. Desperate, they go to Kevin and offer him the name of the Mexican who killed his friend in exchange for the recipe. Kevin, getting to know that Franklin already knew about it, feels betrayed, while Lucia and Gustavo give him time to think it over. On the other hand, Franklin, seeing Rob protect his father even after he stole products from him, gives him time to pay back, and he helps out Alton to stay out of prison. Teddy and Matt returned from Panama, but before they went into their office, Teddy was able to spot the surveillance. Teddy is able to get away, and using his contacts in the LAPD, he gets to know that they are being watched by the DEA. Knowing this, Teddy knows that the DEA must be having an undercover agent. He calls Lorena's handler and asks him to pull out their undercover. Tony is spooked by the call, and he tells Lorena that he will be ending the operation, as he is not comfortable moving ahead. Teddy also lets Franklin know that their shipment might get delayed, while Franklin opens up to him, letting him know that he plans to blow up the rock in every major city. With the DEA still keeping a watch on their office, Teddy and Matt decide to get away for a few days. Matt lets Teddy know that Avi has been calling for payment, but Teddy cannot do anything about it as of now, as all the money is in their office, and they cannot get to it. As they reach the hangar, they find that the Colombians were waiting for them, and they were upset, as pickups have not been made on time. And getting to know that it might take a few days for them to resolve the issue. They let Teddy leave, letting him know that Matt will stay with them as insurance till he can get things resolved. While Franklin spends time with Kevin and Leon and gifts them a new house, but Kevin feels that he is just trying to buy them. And when Franklin shouts at Wanda for taking the products without him knowing, Kevin feels more and more hurt by Franklin. Thus he decides to give up the recipe to Lucia. Lorena, being told to shut the operation, was about to arrest Lucia. It is when she tells them that the white boys will be coming with a shipment, while she needs to go with Pedro to Gabriela to give her the recipe. As Lucia goes out with Pedro and confronts him, he confesses to her and tells her that it was him who approached the DEA. Lucia, feeling hurt and betrayed, shoots and kills him. She calls Gustavo and asks him to leave, but before he could, Lorena arrests him. On the other hand, Alton, being sober, was able to get his VA benefits, and he gives it to Sissy to pay to the bank, and they start to get close again. But as Sissy went to the bank, she finds out that their entire mortgage has already been paid. Sissy visits Franklin and tells him that she and his father cannot take the house and will start looking for a new place. Franklin lets her know that he tried doing things the right way and always got screwed, and now he is making his own rules and is happy doing so. While Louis gets into an argument with Claudia, as Claudia insulted her. The argument leads to a fight, and Louis ends up hitting Claudia in the head. a broken Louis, returns back to Jerome. Jerome is able to win her over by reminding her how much he loves her and letting her know that they are partners in everything. While Lucia goes to Gabriella and gives her the recipe, thereby lifting the green light from their heads. She later gets in touch with Lorena and gives herself up. She lets her know that she is willing to give up her suppliers if they are willing to let Gustavo and her walk away. Meanwhile, Wanda steals from them as she got addicted to the product. Leon ties her down in order to get her clean. It is when Franklin learns from Leon that Kevin called him out and he might be going after the Mexican who killed their men. Getting to know this, he calls Lucia and gets to know that they got the recipe in exchange for the name of the killer, and Kevin might be going after him. As Franklin and Leon try to stop Kevin, Lorena also reaches there with Lucia, knowing that if the hit goes down, it will lead to a gang war. But Kevin was hell-bent on revenge, and he opened fires. Franklin, in order to stop him, shoots him. Lorena, being there, watched it go down, but Franklin is able to get away. While Teddy, in order to get help, comes to DC, but he learns that James is no longer in the office, and he is being given a runaround. He seeks Julia's help, and on the threat of making noise, is able to get his voice heard. He gets a visit by Havemeyer, the man who replaced James. Teddy is able to convince him to get the DEA investigation shut down. Havemeyer agrees to do so, but in exchange, he lets him know that they will burn the files James had on him. In addition, he will have to give the DEA something big. And Teddy offers them 2 Colombian drug lords in return. But as he was negotiating, Matt is being forced to be on drugs. Avi, also not getting the payment, shows up at their house. And all of them are able to get along. With the DEA investigation being ordered to shut down, Teddy is able to get the money, and he reached in time to pay the Colombians, as well as Avi, and he saves Matt. Lorena is not happy with them closing the investigation and letting everyone walk free, despite them getting the location of 2 Colombian drug lords. Before Lucia and Gustavo could get away, they are attacked by the Mexican for giving him up. Though Gustavo is able to save Lucia, he is severely injured in the process. Sissy gets a visit from 2 detectives, and she is afraid, not knowing what Franklin might be involved in. She goes to Jerome's house and blames him for getting his son involved in all the illegal activities. Jerome lets her know that Franklin made his own choice and they are all responsible for him. Later, Franklin learns that Kevin died, and he is their prime murder suspect. Everyone wants Franklin to leave and lay low, but before leaving, he goes to see his mother. Andre suspected that he might come home, and as he reached home, he gets arrested. At the police station, Lorena identifies him as the shooter. During the bail hearing, Franklin is denied bail because of the credibility of the eyewitness. On the other hand, Lorena, not being able to figure out why her investigation got shut, goes to meet Teddy at his office. She is able to figure out that he might be working for some agency in order to have that much power. Teddy asks her to work with him and assures her that at the end of their operation, she could arrest everybody, from the suppliers to the dealers, and he gives her time to think. With Franklin's bail being denied, he is sent to prison. In the prison, he is jumped by Ray and his men. Seeing him all beaten up, Leon wants him to stand up and fight back. Sissy is also not able to see Franklin like this, and she breaks down. Alton also tries to talk with his son. But Franklin's anger and frustration boils over. Franklin decides to fight back and to take what belongs to him. He later goes to Ray and his men and lets them know that if they touch him again, their entire family outside will be on the receiving end. In addition, he tells Louis to meet with Teddy and let him know that they can continue the business as usual. And he will be very grateful if he can get him out. Teddy, knowing the vision of Franklin to expand the business, decides to help him out. As Lorena agrees to join him, he asks her to roll back her identification of Franklin. Lorena rolls back her eyewitness statement, thereby, Franklin is released from the prison. As without the eyewitness statement, the police had no case. He thanks Teddy and lets him know that he is ready to get started again, and he knows that his mistake was giving away too much control. As the season ends, we learn that Franklin was able to figure out Teddy's entire operation, on how he is sending weapons to fight a war in Nicaragua, and that is why he sells drugs, in order to raise capital, and he works for the government, and now, they are working for him. Thanks for watching. And if you liked it, please subscribe.